Welcome, my friends. Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Monday, February 20th. We are here live. It is a free-for-all. Today really is all about you and what you want to talk about. We have no guests. We have no theme. I've got a ton of odds and ends I could talk about, but I'd rather find out what's on your mind today. So pick up the phone and join me. Anything goes. It's a free-for-all. If you have a question, a comment, a topic, anything at all you want to talk about, jump in and join us. 855-950-3835. A couple things I want to talk about. It's going to be a little political, but I won't spend a lot of time on it. I do have a lot of material this week for a commentary. I've just got to find some time to record it. We're starting to get a little backed up here. We've got to get ready and hit the road here in a couple of weeks for an event and trying to wrap up some things. And there's a lot going on. But really, what I want to talk about today is it is political. I'm going to just spend a couple minutes on it here while we're lining up some calls. There's already some calls coming in, so jump in. What's going on right now in East Palestine, Ohio? One, I'm very familiar with it because that's where I grew up. Both Lisa and I are from that area, very close to there. It was less than a year ago. Lisa was there 10 miles away from where the train derailed, getting a condo ready to sell that we had owned for a while. We sold a house there a couple of years ago. So I'm very familiar with that area. One of my first driving jobs was right there. I went to East Palestine a couple times a week. Covered that whole area right there. Something is wrong with what's going on there. Zero coverage for the most part from the mainstream media. I see a little bit of coverage from Fox. Almost all of my news is coming from, you can't even call them independent journalists. There are a couple of those. It's just people that care, and they're down there trying to report on what's happening. And there's no mainstream media. The government has basically ignored the entire situation. So all we have are what the news we're getting from independent journalists and individuals who are reporting on their particular situation. And we don't know what the truth is. I'm seeing an awful lot of posts about water that just, chemical blooms everywhere. You just touch the water. I'm also seeing reports as far away as Montreal and other places far into the Northeast where they're talking about the snow they just got is coming down, and you can see the chemical rainbow in the snow. Is all or any of this true? I don't know. That's why we need good media that we can trust, and that's disappeared. So all last week, I was really, really focused on this issue, trying to find independent journalists, trying to find good reporting. There's so much about this we need to pay attention to. The air went one direction, kind of north and east for the most part, and we were hearing reports of people smelling it and seeing things, around the Buffalo, Niagara Falls area, and then it just kept spreading. Like I said, I'm seeing reports all the way to the East Coast now and Montreal. Is that really true? What are the levels? What's causing this? Is it dangerous? I can't imagine that it's not. So the air went one way, the water goes the other. The water is all heading west and southwest for the most part, although I have seen some diagrams where it will actually go northwest as well. We must have some river in there that runs north. What a mess. Why aren't we talking about this? Why isn't this being covered? So last week I was frustrated that this isn't being covered. Nobody from the government's been there. FEMA showed up and then looked like they tucked tail and ran like they're afraid to be there. I think they're going to be back this week, we hope. Biden hasn't been there. Kamala hasn't been there. Buttigieg hasn't been there. Come on, this is not even that far away from where they spend most of their time. So I was frustrated with this lack of response for the last couple of weeks. This has been going on a while now. Really kind of made me a little insane. Let's tie in another thing going on in our government right now that I don't understand. All this money and the support we're giving to Ukraine. We should not be. We should stop that immediately. This is not to protect democracy because Ukraine's not a democracy, never has been. So I do have a real problem with all the money we're sending over there, but I wake up on President's Day hoping that maybe this week somebody from the government, Biden, Buttigieg, Kamala, all three will be in East Palestine, Ohio. They're not. Do you know where President Biden is today? He's in Ukraine, giving them another $500 million. What is going on here? And why aren't we pushing back even harder? Why aren't we screaming this from the top of our lungs and demanding something? I don't get it. Everybody now at least has a voice on social media. Get out and post this stuff all over the place. Spread it. Make people aware. Talk to people. Something is really, really wrong with what's going on. All right, I have a lot of things I could talk about today, but I do want to get to your calls and questions, so I'm going to jump in right now. Join us. Phone lines are wide open, 855-950-3835. We could talk about anything you want today. You know, to talk about what I opened with. I have a lot of other things I could go to, but I'd rather hear from you. So pick up the phone and join us. 855-950-3835. We're going to head off to Kansas. Bob, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. How's it going? I watched an interview this weekend that just made the hair on my neck stand straight up, and I just had to call you first thing. But have you ever heard of Cali Means? Have you seen some of his interviews?
Yeah, I actually follow him on Twitter. And I watched him on Tucker the other day.
Oh, my gosh. That is something else. I have never, he was telling the story about he was a consultant for Coca-Cola and how they paid off the NAACP to go out and call people racist who were trying to get, Coke off the shelves or or at least get it off the government program. And, this whole healthcare system that is trying to be pushed to a single payer. And this is being pushed by the the pharmaceutical companies to get that away, because the more sick people, the more they have more customers, and how the food system all goes into this to make us sick and weak and afraid. And this just makes us more dependent on them and their chemicals that they're pushing on us. I was listening to his interview and I was like, oh my God. I didn't know he was on Tucker, but I watched a few of his YouTube interviews and just blown away.
Yeah, I'm not sure why all of a sudden he came out of nowhere. Like a couple months ago, I'd never even heard the name. Now all of a sudden he's everywhere. And he's not saying anything new. Really, we've all said this many, many times over the last, 8 or 9 years we've been talking about this kind of stuff. Look at the big industries that we demonize. The big one right now is gas and oil. We're doing everything we can, not we, the government seems to be doing everything they can to kill that industry because it's so bad for us. And yet, we absolutely still need that industry, and we're going to need that industry forever. Even if we can convert to electric and solar, that's not the only thing we use petroleum products for, not even close. That industry is going to be around a long, long time. This whole green thing is being pushed too hard, too fast. It's going to fail. It already is. So we're demonizing that industry and shutting them down and shutting down pipelines. And yet we look at two other industries, big food and big agriculture. And I can't think of two industries that have done more damage to humans than those. And what do? We just subsidize the hell out of those.
Yeah, I am overwhelmed. But I think his message is very clear because he's using words like this is violence against children and us. His message is much clearer.
Bob.
I know that's a whole term.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on you because here's the thing, that as much as I hate this, as much as it's destructive to have food like this available and to have all the pharmaceuticals and everything, every answer to everything is another drug. I couldn't be more against any of this, but I'm also against calling it violence. To me, violence is one thing. that you physically come to me and do harm to my body physically. That's violence. Let's not keep redefining words. That makes me insane.
Violence.
No, it's not.
It is violence.
No, it's not. No, it's not, because here's why. Here's why, Bob. Nobody is forced. Nobody holds me down and pours a Coke down my throat. That would be violence. Just because the stuff is available is not violence. That makes me a little crazy. It's not violence. Everybody has a choice. Now, they may be very, very uninformed. I get that. That's why we're out here trying to inform people. That's the answer here. We have to inform people that this stuff is killing them, and it's killing them slowly. It's not too much to say that they control your life from the very beginning with food, and then drugs are the answer. And what a mess the whole system is. Couldn't be more against it. But I also don't want to go down that road of redefining terms.
Okay. I see where you're at. I understand that. But I mean, my mom is diabetic, and I've seen her, for the last 10 years have to inject herself with insulin. And she still, to this day, she won't listen to me. She won't listen. The only people she listens to are the doctors. And
right.
The doctor said, just keep doing what I'm doing.
Right.
And I see her weakening all the time, Kevin.
It's awful.
And she has been informed. She's heard my speeches over and over. I know you don't like that word, violence, but this is hurting her. She has been hurt. And there's nothing I can do about it.
Get it. And I hear your frustration, and I'm just as frustrated. What have I said for 8 years? The hardest part about this is once you learn it, once you learn how important it is, all you want to do is share it with people, and we can't. It's so hard. And I will say it's because of all the brainwashing they've done for years. They have done a hell of a job of setting up a system that people have bought into hook, line, and sinker. They think there's no other way. And it's so sad. She did not need any of those drugs she's taken the last 10 years. They were not necessary. There was another way, a much better way. And I get your frustration, but I also don't want to give them the argument. See, here's the problem. When we're trying to debate this stuff, the minute you say violence, somebody's going to jump in and then they can make that argument back. This isn't well, now we're totally off track. That's what I want to avoid. Let's stick to the real issue. The real issue is the pharmaceuticals and the big food companies have way too much power. And I don't even know at this point how we stop it.
I totally agree about it, Kevin, but this is their tactic. I'm trying to say, or what I see Callie doing, is he's using their tactic against them. And by using terms like that, it makes people pay attention, I think. And I get what you're saying. Don't redefine words. And I understand that. I know food isn't violence, but is causing harm in a way people aren't even paying any attention to.
Then that's what we have to say. We have to say it like that. We don't want to give them an argument to fight back and just confuse the issue, because that's all that ever happens. What we have to say is this isn't food. It's toxic to the human body. These toxic pharmaceutical drugs. One of my other headlines here that I was going to get to if I run out of calls are all of the drugs that keep coming out that are linked to cancer now. There's a Zantac now. So the PPIs. The metformin has been linked to this. A couple of the high blood pressure medications have been linked to cancer. Now, here's the interesting thing. It's not the drug itself causing cancer. It's the manufacturing process. That's why all these different drugs, even though they're wildly different, are all causing cancer because they're being contaminated with the same stuff during the manufacturing process. Now these things are, and isn't it coincidental? Maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's not, that it seems to be the most popular drugs. PPIs are either the first or second best-selling class of drugs in the world. They've been linked to cancer. Metformin, number one go-to drug for diabetics. Everybody's diabetic anymore, linked to cancer. High blood pressure. Do you ever hear of anybody over 40 anymore that isn't on a high blood pressure medication linked to cancer? This is what we've got to stop. We don't need to throw in a bunch of new words and redefine terms. We have all the proof and evidence we need right in front of us.
It's about getting ears to listen to our message.
I get it. It's what I do all day.
I understand. Hey, Kevin, I was just going to say that at the East Palestine thing, I wonder if it has something to do with Biden's agreement that he did a few months ago on making the railroads go back to work, and that thing where they didn't go on strike. I was just curious why so much has been suppressed about this. Is it because of this agreement or his involvement in the railroad?
Well, you brought up one I hadn't even thought of yet. And that's part of the problem when we have media that won't cover things, when we have a government that ignores things and there's no real How do you wake up on President's Day with disaster like this that's coming up on 3 weeks old and you've ignored it, and you wake up on President's Day completely unannounced and go to another country and give them $500 million? It's almost like it's like a slap in the face. It's almost like, look, we waited till President's Day and no prior warning, no plan to go to Ukraine. Has Biden been to Ukraine yet? Is this his first trip? I think it is, isn't it?
It is his first trip. Yeah, I believe so.
On President's Day, while the country is dealing with this disaster? How much more obvious could you make it that you just hold our country in total contempt?
That they are not wanting us to look at, and they're doing everything to get our views going to another place.
You know,
something is definitely.
You bring up the railroad thing, the negotiation, the strike. I forgot all about that. I have seen so many crazy conspiracy theory-like ideas. Are they right? Hell, I don't know. They're not reporting on anything. One of them, let's get really out there. You know, how the government really wants us all vaccinated and doesn't like large groups of people who aren't vaccinated. You know who live in that area? The Amish. Guess who absolutely do not get vaccinated? One large group of people that absolutely did not get vaccinated? The Amish. Come on, we're going to get crazy conspiracy theories like that because we're not getting any information. That's how these things come about. Could some of them be true? Certainly some could be. Have you seen this story? Because I don't know if this is true or not. It seems like it. I've certainly dug as much as I can. Could it be a deep fake, all these videos? I guess it's possible. But have you seen this whole this story about just a couple weeks before this happened in East Palestine, they rolled out a new experimental medical ID program? Have you seen that story at all? Let me tell you this, though, because it's out there. There's tons of very good, legitimate videos that if somebody faked all this, they put an awful lot of work into it. Go look it up. Just a couple weeks before the train crashed, they rolled out a program in East Palestine, Ohio, with medical ID bracelets with QR codes on them, with all of your medical history, and these track what's going on as well. And that way, in the case of a widespread medical emergency, the authorities come in and just start scanning wristbands. Come on, really? This has happened as far as I can tell. Why isn't that at least being explored and talked about? How come nobody knows about this?
I can't believe it. I can't believe people would be willing to submit themselves to this. I mean, we have got to take our health care back. We need to get away from Medicare, get away from these single payers, any kind of government controlled health care, where we take control back of our own health. I think that is a key that we have to look at. And I thought that's what Callie Means was trying to say. And that's what made me think this guy is going to do, bring a lot of ears, a lot of eyes to this story.
Hey, Bob, don't get me wrong. I don't like one use of his word violence, but I will also say this. He's got a big platform. That's what we need. We need people like this. I don't care if they do it wrong. At least they're out there doing it. So I want to make sure that I go back and, clarify. I don't like the use of that word. I don't think we should use their tactics against them. I think their tactics suck. I think we should stick to our guns and our morals and do it right. But I'm glad that he's out doing it. We need that. We need people with big platforms. So, yeah, I may disagree on the tactics. It's just my opinion. But I'm glad he's out there, and I'm glad he did come out of nowhere. Speaking of things coming out of nowhere, that seems to be another theme in our world today. Like, CRT, where the hell did that come from? It was everywhere, and somehow we didn't know it. This ESG in companies and investing, where the hell did all these things come from? One day you wake up and it's like it's everywhere and it's been there and you didn't know it. And there's so much of this going on that it's hard to keep up with anything. How did we not know about this medical ID thing going on? So many things.
I think a lot of it is we get in our groups and we start arguing in our groups about that other group that's over there and what they're doing. And I think this is what happens a lot. If you connect all these things that we've been talking together about today, they pitch these groups of us that are against each other. If it's race, if it's about diet, if it's the vegans against the carnivores, or if it's about what race you are or what color you are, whatever, all they have to do is stir up each other's pot into these things. And that's why we don't notice all of these big important things around us that is going on.
So I've been saying this for a long time, and I'm going to keep saying it. We have people in the country who just kind of ignore everything. They always have. They don't really follow the news. They don't really follow politics. They're kind of wrapped up in their own life and they go day to day. We're never going to change that. I think that's probably the majority. Then we have the group of people who are, and I'll put myself in that group, totally on the other side. I have been talking with Lisa about it all week. I'm starting to get overwhelmed with this stuff. It's not easy to go through all day digging to try to find this stuff. I spent all weekend on it because I'm getting to the point where I feel like something bad is about to happen, that we're reaching a tipping point. So many areas, so many things going wrong. But honestly, it's overwhelming. I would love to just turn this stuff off and forget about it. It's making me crazy. My sleep is shot these days, the last couple of weeks. But there's too much going on right now, and there does seem to be some connection to all of this. We've got China threatening Taiwan. I cannot believe we just need to be out of Ukraine completely. We should not send them another penny. And instead, on President's Day, our president is over there for the first time now. How much worse can it get right now without something really bad happening? We see the crime in our streets is rampant and just out of control. So I don't want to spend my days doing this, but I don't know what else to do. But one recommendation I would make to people, just try this. If you are a news junkie and you spend all your time in an echo chamber, you're on Facebook with people who think just like you. You're on Twitter and you only follow people who think just like you. You should see my Twitter following. Go look it up. I follow vegans. I follow hardcore Democrats. I follow news agencies that are hardcore left-wing. We have to know that side of what's going on. How do I know all the things that are going on? Because I'm watching all sides that I can find. And I would encourage people to do that. If you are typically only watching right-wing media, watch left-wing for a day. If you only watch left-wing, watch right-wing media for a day. If you can find it, it's getting harder and harder to find, but we can't just stay in our own echo chambers here.
That is the most difficult thing for me to do. I mean, I do watch a lot of health videos and I try to go watch the other side, and it just seems like they are only out to prove we are doing evil. Like, I don't think vegans are evil. I don't think what they do at all. When they talk about carnivores or they talk about the keto people, they talk about us like we are evil.
Correct.
And this is the thing that kind of caught my attention about that stupid violence word. I understand what you're saying, but I think at least I got that one thing that I can poke back at them a little bit. But I understand what your point was about it. But when they talk about our side, and I'm a conservative too, and when the Democrats talk about us, we are evil. You know, we are. I don't have I don't call them evil. They're good people. They just have a different way of looking at things. But why do they talk about us like we are these evil beings from another planet? I'm from the same country, and you are more. You would treat a Ukrainian better than you would treat me.
That's my complaint about our government right now. No, I know exactly what you're saying. When we're generalizing some, because I'm sure there are some carnivores that treat them like they're evil, but not on a big scale. You can see it. The difference is we try to attack the diet and the thought process itself. They tend to attack us as human beings. Oh, yeah, I'm rotten, immoral. I kill and make animals suffer just for my own pleasure. I can't tell you how many times I hear that a day from the vegans. When all we have to do is look, this isn't right or wrong. This is how the world has always worked forever and ever, and always will work forever and ever. Everything on the planet eats something else. Some things on the planet eat other things that are alive. Many things on the planet eat other things that are alive. That's how the system works. It's not right or wrong.
I just think theirs is an ideology.
Right.
Ours is something we do because it works. You know, I would love to go eat pie and cake and all those other things, you know, and have a Coca-Cola because, hell, they taste great. But I don't, because I know what happens to me when I do those things.
Yeah.
You know, just works. Nobody ever thought, hey, eat meat and that's it for the rest of your life. Or, you know, and every single, you know, I have a little bit of fun here and there. But theirs is some kind of, I don't know, this ideology that's so deeply ingrained about good and evil. And ours is just, hey, this works. This works for me. You don't have to do it. It just works for me. And people look at you like you're completely insane. You know, I tried to help people in the past. I was listening to one of your earlier videos before you guys came on. And I've tried to tell people in the past. I've tried to even my mom, family members, best friends, not one of them has ever listened to me. I have not changed one person. My best friend has heart trouble, high blood pressure. He's way, way overweight, good guy, has a wonderful family, and he cannot buy into this. And this would be one thing that he can help. Everybody always feels when they think, holy mackerel, what are you doing? And you start to tell them, and you can just see their eyes start to glaze over, and they're like, oh, one of those, you're a diet person. Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Look, I get your frustration. I know I've said that from the beginning. It's the most frustrating part about this. You figure it out, you learn it, you realize how good it really... I'll talk about something else. Let's go back, because I've been involved in fitness most of my life and diet. I've always been kind of a foodie, so none of these topics are new to me. I mean, I started in sports really early in life. I got into wrestling really early, where weight was always an issue. So losing weight was important to me. So I've always been involved in this area. And then when I started realizing in my 20s that I couldn't live and eat the way that I did in my teens because I was getting fatter. Already in my 20s, it started happening. And then 30s, I was fighting it. And 40s, I was fighting it. And I tried all the typical stuff they tell us, calories in, calories out. You got to exercise more. I've been through all of that. I've been through a ton of different diets with names. And, every one of them helped me lose a little bit of weight in the beginning. None of them were sustainable. They were all miserable. None of them really made me any healthier, even if I did lose weight. One of the things that I never did when I tried all of those other things, you did not find me out trying to tell somebody else how great they were, because they weren't. There was nothing great about them at all. And I kept trying them. but I didn't try to convince somebody else. This I do. I have from day one because this works. It works really, really well. And you want people to try it because you see they don't have to live like that. They don't have to be constantly talking about their doctor's appointments and what drug they're on and how much you listen to other people talk. Do you hear them talking about this topic constantly? What medications they're on, what their doctor's doing with them now. How awful is that?
When they talk about the milligrams, when they start talking about how many milligrams they're on this and how many, I mean, they're deep into those weeds.
Right.
I'm like, why? Why would you want to live like that?
I know.
I think it's like this, like we were talking about earlier, this victim nation that we live in, that people want to have a problem. They want to have this disease. Oh, my doctor said I'm diabetic. I'm diabetic forever, I guess. Nobody ever wants to find out, hey, is there a solution for this?
I know.
You know, my mom, I love her to death, but she thinks, hey, this is my thing. I get to go see the doctors, the nurses pretend like they care about me. The doctor, he seems really nice and he says nice words to me. He doesn't mistreat me like you do, son, and tell me to eat meat, you know? And it is so crazy that people just don't say, hey, we are this species that has been evolving for millions of years. There was no doctors. There was no refrigerators for us. There was nothing. It was just us out there surviving. Why couldn't we still continue to do that if we feed ourselves correctly? There's obviously been something going on in the last 100 years or so that is making us weaker and weaker with each generation.
Yeah, and, you know, we might as well just tie it into all the conspiracy theory stuff. When they make us weaker like this, we're so much easier to control.
Absolutely. That is absolutely the truth. You know, when they were torturing those guys, I know this is way off the subject, when they were torturing people in Iraq and Afghanistan and they would put them in those rooms, what they do is they make you weak, they make you dependent, they make you afraid, and then they start getting information out of you. They start making you do the things they want you to do. And that is exactly what is happening to America right now. We're getting weaker, we're getting stupider, we're getting more dependent on the government, and that gives them more and more control, and they can lead us in any direction they want to take us. They can tell us a train accident that everybody can see in Ohio means nothing. Don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. And we're all like, oh, let's watch football, the Super Bowl. They talk about groups of people that drive me nuts is all of these dads that aren't paying attention to nothing. But man, they know what, you know, how many touchdowns, how many yards this guy has. I mean, they know everything about everything on football, but they couldn't tell you what's good to eat at the Super Bowl party, you know?
Oh, no, they'll tell you everything that tastes really good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All we care about with food anymore.
I was at a Super Bowl party and I was eating wings and everybody else was doing, you know, all this other stuff. And somebody happened to say, hey, I thought you were on some kind of diet, you know? What are you doing? You can't eat wings. And I was like, well, it's meat. That's what I eat. What? My doctor says you can't eat much meat. Well, that's what I eat for every meal. Hey, Kevin, I just wanted to tell you,
we might as well go down one more conspiracy theory road, that part of the country that we just poisoned. Isn't there an awful lot of farmland right there?
Oh, yeah. Lots.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of farmland.
Yeah, I am going to get even more picky about my food supply. I'm going to go back and look at, you know, the farms that I might be buying from that may be in that part of the country may be affected by this.
Oh, my gosh, Kevin. You know, this is one thing. I always think nobody wants to listen to me because where I'm from Southwest Kansas, right? And so everybody's job in Southwest Kansas is somehow connected to farming.
Right.
You know, and we grow all the wheat and we grow lots of corn. Everybody's job is somehow connected to a farmer. And when you start talking to them, maybe when they glaze their eyes over, what I was telling you, when they start to glaze over on me, this is their job. They're thinking, hey, my job is connected somehow or another. You know, I mean, there's crops consulting people you wouldn't even they're engineers. They're not even farmers. They just tell the farmers what chemicals to put on their land and when to do it. When's the perfect time. This is huge business.
Bob, I know that over the years, I probably pissed off a few farmers. I'm sure I'm going to piss off more because honestly, the way we farm now sucks. It's not farming. Let's get real. You know, these people that want to defend our agriculture system, let's go back 50, 60, 100 years and really realize what a farm was and should still be. That's not what we have today. So when I criticize our farming, I'm not criticizing farmers. I'm criticizing the system. The system is a mess. It's been taken over by big agriculture. It's awful for everything. It's awful for our planet. This is an area where I can actually agree with the vegans. I totally agree with them. The way we raise our food today sucks and we have to change it. But I don't think we should change it to where we get rid of animals and we only grow kale. That's not the answer. The answer is we should raise our animals properly and our food, our plants. Just raise it all properly. Let's go back to farms the way farms used to be.
I totally agree, but I don't think you should be afraid about criticizing farmers. Farmers are not farmers anymore. These are corporations. Don't care about people. All they care about is getting as much out of the land as they can. And when I say getting out of the land, and from where I'm from, it's about getting wheat and corn to grow no matter what.
Yes.
When I was growing up, we used to summer follow all of the land in Southwest Kansas. You had to always rest it. Not anymore. I mean, in continuous crop, never letting up. It's not like, oh, I'm going to plant a few peas or whatever like you do in your garden. It's constant corn out of every circle in Southwest Kansas. It's constant wheat.
Cool.
It's constant everything.
Don't forget soy.
It is grown by chemicals and fertilizers that don't belong, that are growing food that are making us sick and weak.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. All right, Bob, got to move along. Calls are starting to pile up. Good stuff. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Brian, how's the air there these days?
Man, I haven't smelled anything. I just went through Columbus this morning. I don't know, man. I hope it's all right.
Well,
I'm trying to get as far north, and I'm going to.
Yeah, the air moved the other direction. You have to be careful of the water where you are.
Yeah, I didn't stop at any truck stops in Ohio or anywhere. Nothing.
Yeah, don't drink the water.
So I'm headed
Actually, people should be very careful about bottled water even. There's an awful lot of brands of bottled water on the market that just come from somebody's municipal water supply. That's all it is. They're bottling the water that comes out of somebody's faucet anyway. And there are I've seen a couple of brands of water being posted that are bottled right in that area.
But the bottled water I've got on my truck, a case of it, I bought it like 6 months ago. So.
Yeah. And, my bottled water is going to come from someplace like Fiji now.
Yeah. Hey, so this is not what I called about, but, you're talking about all these conspiracy theories and farming and all this other crap. And have you seen that they want to start, you may have already talked about this, but, they want to put the vaccination in the food supply so that everybody's ingested with it.
There's a problem with that whole thought. Vaccines don't work that way. I mean, we can't ingest this vaccine. If that were the case, why would we even be doing all these shots? Why wouldn't they just give everybody a pill? You can't. It doesn't work that way. So that conspiracy theory doesn't even make sense to me unless they come up with some new technology that would allow this to happen. But, whether they're giving that vaccine to the animals, which is certainly possible, we will get traces of it like that we could get some of the bad stuff out of the vaccine if it's given to animals and then we eat the animal. But I don't believe that we are anywhere near technology where we would actually get the spike protein out of this, which is the problem with this vaccine, is that spike protein. I don't believe that's possible.
Right. Yeah, I hope not, because
Me too.
that's scary. That's scary crap right there.
Yeah, it is.
But what are your thoughts on? Are you familiar? I'm sure you're familiar with Patriot Supply, right? My Patriot Supply,
Yeah.
survival
Yeah.
food. I've been thinking about getting like a case of that food, those MREs they have on there, and they, I'm sure they're whatever, not the healthiest, but what do you think about it? And plus, they have water too. They have little water packets too that I could.
So
put on
let's
the
just
truck.
start
What
with.
do you
Let's just start with what I think of being prepared in general, and then we can talk about specific companies or products or things like that. Being prepared in general, I can't make a stronger recommendation to people now that look around your house or your truck if you spend a lot of time in your truck and you're not at home. Could you survive for 2 weeks with nothing from the outside? And if you can't just make it 2 weeks, you're in danger. You could be really, really uncomfortable or even in danger in an emergency situation. You should be able to handle 2 weeks, meaning you have all the food and water, protection from weather, some cash on hand, all of those things. That's bare minimum. If you haven't done that, do that. Just get yourself prepared for 2 weeks. Then I would set your next goal to get yourself prepared for 2 months. And honestly, I don't think it's that big of a stretch to get yourself prepared for 2 years. What's the worst that could happen? Totally wrong. And none of this ever comes about. And you have some extra food and water and bullets hanging around. Big deal. What's the downside there? But if I'm right, look at what the downside could be. So let's talk about specific products. I'll kind of tell you how I did this. It was an evolution, and honestly, it's not a bad evolution. It came about totally by accident. But the first time I read the book, 1 second after, and by the way, if you haven't read that book, go read it. It'll motivate you to do this stuff. It's what got me started. I went and looked at my pantry, and I'm a foodie. I have a big pantry. And I looked at my pantry, and I thought, I survived 2 weeks on what's in my pantry. But I panicked. I'm like, 2 weeks, that's nothing. And I did start with that, kind of survival kind of food. Mountain House is a big one that does a lot of freeze-dried and dehydrated meals. Patriot Supply. I started with that stuff. I bought it probably 6 months worth of that kind of food. I will tell you, it is some of the worst food on the planet health-wise. Not only is it a little bad, it's total garbage. It's a chemical shit show. Right. That's what it is. So just so we know. Now, will it keep you alive? Absolutely. And that was my first goal. I just want something quick and easy. I couldn't think through all this stuff, so I just bought a bunch of that. I still have it. It's got like a 25-year shelf life. So I still have that stuck away somewhere. I can promise you that will be the last food I ever eat. I mean, the only way I'm going to eat that stuff is because there is nothing left to eat. But it's not a bad way to start because it's quick and it's easy and it works. It's easy to store. It's easy to buy. You don't have to think. Just buy 6 months worth of freeze-dried survival food. Don't even look at the ingredient list. I'd be fine with that. I can help people do it better if they're willing to put in some time and effort. And that is, you should be pressure canning and regular canning and fermenting the kinds of foods you eat every day. And that's my model now. I have a year's worth of the kind of food I eat every single day. If the apocalypse happened this afternoon, nothing would change about the way I eat. I wouldn't go from eating good, healthy, wholesome food to eating garbage survival food. That's not my plan. Have some advantages. I have a lot of room. We built a big pantry. I have basically kind of a root cellar kind of thing. That'll be a secondary pantry. But I've worked at this. I've been working at this for about 5 or 6 years. So I think the better plan is learn how to, one, prepare your own food. A lot of people aren't even there yet. And then learn how to prepare your own food long term so you're just eating the same stuff every day anyway.
Right.
I'm getting ready to go buy another pressure canner. I'm going to go buy the biggest pressure canner All American makes. And I'm going to get set up even more. I mean, I love the whole idea of pressure canning. I talk about it all the time. It's pure convenience. It helps me control the quality of my ingredients. And what a great skill to have when you can just keep canning meat that will be shelf stable for years.
Yep, I'm trying to do all of that. I mean, I'm all about it. For me, the less dependent and the more self-sufficient I can be on, less dependent on the government and the more self-sufficient I can be, the better. And but I live in a fifth wheel, so I live in an RV resort, so I can't have a garden, and my pantry's small. I did buy the Instapot Max pressure canner, so I can can 4 16-ounce jars at a time. My problem is, well, I'm single, and I probably do about 130,000 miles a year. I'm just challenged in the whole cooking area and shopping, and so that's a real weakness that I'm trying to turn into a strength.
Let me help you shortcut this. Let me help you shortcut this. Here's what I would do if I were in your situation. And I don't even need to make any radical changes. You don't need to move. Here's what I would do. I would find the nearest self-storage facility, and I'd go down and rent me a storage unit, and I'd put all my canning supplies in that storage unit, and I would also use it to store all of the stuff I'm going to can. And then you take a weekend off or a couple days here and there, and I can if I get that, I'd have to go look. My 25 quart will actually can 17 pints. That's like the biggest batch I can do. I can get a lot more if I do pints instead of quarts because I can stack them. So I can get 17 pints if I do it. So I'm assuming a 41 quart would probably get me somewhere close to 30 pints at a time. I can buy a double big propane, burner with two burners, like a little table, two big propane burners on it. I could have two of these things going. Technically, I could be canning 60 quarts in one batch. I could probably do two batches in a day. You could technically, if you had the right equipment, in one weekend, you could probably can over 100 pints of meat. Think about how long that would last you, and that's one weekend. Right.
Yeah, because right now I was actually considering maybe just eating MREs out on the road, making it, because I have an older truck, man. I don't have hotel power in it. So
Brian.
Yeah,
I would, if you want to go buy a bunch of MREs for that quick, today I have nothing, in an hour I've got enough food to last me 6 months or a year. Go buy the MREs or the Mountain House or the, Patriot. Go buy that, but do not eat that stuff every day. That's total toxic poison. Right. It's survival food. Go ahead.
I knew you were in the military, so I thought I'd ask you what.
Oh, they are awful, awful. Yeah, don't. Like I said, anybody that wants to buy that just to have a quick emergency backup, that's how I did it. I wouldn't do it again now I know better. Within a week, I could have more meat canned than, even if I have to go buy everything right now today, within 1 week, I could have tons of meat canned.
Okay. Well, I'm working on it. So it's like part of doing the hard work. It's all hard work.
Here's one more thing I want to kind of encourage people. Go out and do this right now today. I think there's enough evidence that this is good in so many reasons. Let me throw in one more thing I would do. If I were in a hurry, if I were just starting today, I'd run out and buy all the canning supplies I could get. I'd go rent that storage space if I had to, and I would go find a local regenerative farm, someplace I could drive to, and I'd buy a half a cow or a pig or whatever. I'd get it right from the farm.
Yep, that's exactly what I want to do. So, hey, that book that you mentioned, I've heard about it. Is it available in a book form, or is it audio only?
It's definitely available in book form because I read it. I don't know if it's available on audio or not. I think it is.
Got a new one coming out that's called 2 Years After.
Yeah, there's actually 3 books. There's 3 books in the original series. There's 1 second after. I don't know. It was like 1 day after, 1 year after. There were 2 more stories. And now, like you said, years later, I read this book many years ago, 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. Now he's bringing out another sequel 2 years after.
Yeah, I'm gonna read that for sure. So on to my question I called about. I've talked to about 5 different CPA firms, and I'm getting a different answer from every single one of them. So I was hoping that you could just really shed some light on this for me. I need to know when it makes. So I set my stuff up as a sole proprietor. I didn't form an LLC. I did not even know that I'm out here driving, and if I caused an accident or something, that they could come after my personal assets.
Hey, Brian.
I didn't even know that.
Brian, I want you to stop right there. There are reasons we form corporations and limited liability companies or LLCs. Those reasons never have anything to do with what you just said. Ignore that whole issue. If somebody's telling you that you need to form a corporation to protect your assets, run the other way.
Okay.
That's bullshit. Here's why.
All right. Well,
here's why. First off, let's talk about the real answer here. Nobody likes to hear this, and I'm not criticizing anybody, but the people the people I'm talking to every day, and myself included, we don't have enough money to worry about. Nobody's coming after us. If somebody sued you today, what would they get? Do you have $1 million in assets that are easy to get to?
No.
Then why would they sue you? Why would anybody sue you?
Yeah.
You have insurance. They're going to go after your insurance. Maybe you've got $1 million policy. They can get $1 million there. But hell, attorneys today, if they can't get a minimum of $1 million, they're not going after anybody. Why would they come after people like us? Nobody ever thinks about that. You have nothing for them to take.
Okay. Well, that makes sense to me because the company that I leased to, it was fine just, setting up a sole proprietor and everything in my name as long as I had an EIN.
Of course it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Not for liability reasons. For tax reasons, we could talk about a corporation, and we will. But for liability reasons, first off, you have nothing to protect. There's nothing. I'm not just saying you. People in our, things we do don't have the kind of money they're coming after. They'll go after our insurance. Fine. That's why we pay for insurance. Let's say you did have enough assets that you needed some sort of protection like this. Forming a corporation wouldn't do it. You're still making too many of the everyday decisions in that corporation, and you can be held liable.
Okay. Makes sense. Now,
the fact that you got 5 different answers from, CPA firms is kind of mind-boggling to me. This isn't that complicated.
Well, the 5 different answers was when to elect to be taxed as an S corp.
I can tell you real simple. I don't know what their 5 answers were. Here's the answer to that question. As a small business owner, you form an S corp when it saves you more money in taxes than it cost you in expenses. That's it.
Okay, does that include? Because one firm told me, "Oh yeah, we'd charge you $1,800 to set up an LLC, and that'll include a 30-page operating agreement with all of."
Tell them to go take a hike. You can go set up your own LLC for about $50 online, and we don't need no 30-page operating agreement. My God, you're a single truck small business. Find a good find a good tax preparer and let them do this for you. Right? None of this.
So we don't need it. We don't need an operating agreement. It's important.
No, it's not. Not at all.
Okay. Because ATBS told me that too. They said they could set the LLC up for $600 and would not include an operating agreement.
You're going to get a standard. Hold on. You're going to get a standard boilerplate operating agreement, which is just fine. We don't need some complicated 30-page document. But even look at what just happened here. Not $1,800. They're going to do the exact same thing for 1/3 the price, which now makes some sense. It shouldn't cost. And I would rather see you pay somebody $500 or $600 to do it. You can go do it yourself really cheap, but do not pay those outrageous fees because they're giving you all this other crap that you just don't need.
Okay. Now, when you said it makes sense tax-wise, what are you talking about?
So,
what numbers? I think you said 60,000 one time on one of your shows.
It's still about right. Still about right. If you're paying tax on more than $60,000. And when I say paying tax, most people don't know what their net is because they have no accounting system. We at least have to go back to your tax return and find out what your net revenue was. That's the only thing that matters. How much did you pay tax on is the number we're looking for. Once that number goes above about 60,000, then we have a strategy where with an S Corp, we can start paying you a salary lower than 60,000 and we can avoid some self-employment tax that way.
Okay, but we also need to take into account the payroll taxes, right?
That's why I said my formula is when you can save more tax than you spend in expenses to do it, meaning the cost of forming the corporation, the cost of corporate filings every year, the cost of doing your payroll, the added cost of doing your accounting and paying for a corporate tax return. We have all those expenses. We have to get to a point, and 60,000 starts to get us there. 80,000, I can promise you we could cover the expenses and still have tax savings. So that's the strategy. It's going to cost us some money to do this. We have to make sure we're saving more in tax than we're spending.
Okay. Now, one little last thing. In order for I wanted to do this and set up and elect to do an S Corp, I have to do it before March 15th. Otherwise, I can't do it until 2024. Now, I was just a part-year owner-operator, but I made basically $100,000 in 5 months. 60,000 was what I took home. Now, obviously it's offset because I had a lot of expense up front.
Wait. Stop.
Going forward.
Stop. You just said something that makes sense to me. You said, here's the number that I took home, and then you started talking about expenses again. Those should already be out of there.
Okay, well, I made zero then as far as the broke even.
Wait, how?
So I'm not.
Did you have a ton of depreciation?
Well, I will have depreciation. It'll be the first year that I'm going to have depreciation, and I'm going to take as little of it as possible.
Wait. Stop. Let's go back to this statement you just made. At one point, you said, I took home 60,000. Then you just said, I broke even. Which one?
Well, so it's both.
No, it can't be. I can promise you it can't be. One or the other, and they're two very different things. They're explaining this to me wrong, or you're really confused about something.
All right, well, let me explain it to you. I bought the truck, leased it on, and within the 5 months, I had like 60,000 of expenses. So I went in the hole like 60,000 over 5 months.
No, you didn't.
However, I made.
No, you didn't. Look, I'm saying that, and I've never looked at your numbers. I have never, ever seen a case where a single truck owner operator was $60,000 in the negative, ever. You're explaining something wrong, or you're understanding something wrong.
Okay. From the company that I'm leased, I grossed almost $100,000 in 6 months.
Okay.
I took home about 60 of that. Okay, but that
stop right there. Hold on. Let's do this one step at a time so I can find out where you're confused. You grossed 100,000. You had about 40,000 in expenses, roughly, based on what you're telling me, because you said you took home 60,000. That is your profit. Then in the next sentence, you told me you broke even and there was no profit. That doesn't make sense. Okay. So I did have 40,000 of expenses that were operating expenses. Okay. That was just the fuel and all of my insurance and everything that was required for me to, that comes out of my that was my settlements only. I had a bunch of repairs on this truck that I tracked separately in QuickBooks, which over 5 months came to roughly almost $60,000. So at the end of the year, yes, as far as the company's concerned, I did net 60,000. Brian, we might be getting somewhere now, and I've identified one problem, a big problem. Why would you track maintenance separate from everything else? Why are you tracking what's on your settlement differently from what's tracking what's off your settlement? They're all business expenses. You did not take home $60,000. You just told me you didn't, but then you keep saying you did, but you didn't. That maintenance is an expense. You can't just say it's not an expense because it wasn't on my settlement. Now, let me ask you another question.
Right.
Did you have a bunch of money in savings before this all happened?
No,
How did you live then? How did you live if you went 6 months and did not earn a penny?
I did have some in savings, but I have very cheap expenses.
So Brian, what we're starting to identify is your operation sucks. How? And I'm saying this not to just criticize you. I'm saying because I think something's still wrong here. I've never seen somebody who could run a truck for 6 months and break even or lose money. I've never seen it. How did you spend $60,000 on maintenance and $10,000 a month in maintenance? Come on. How is that even possible?
Because I bought an old truck.
Well, hold on, Brian. If I take an old truck, I can put an engine in it for 20. I can put a transmission in it for 10. I can put differentials in it for 10. I'm only at 40,000 and I've replaced the entire driveline. How did you get to 60?
It was just a combination of Redneck Diesel and Pittsburgh Power and a bunch of other stuff. A bunch of repairs out on the road. And
Ryan, I'm going to tell you, you really need to think about whether you want to operate this business or not. Because right now it's a train wreck.
Didn't hear all that, Kevin.
I said, your biggest decision right now, in my opinion, is whether or not you really want to be in business. This is a train wreck so far.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get my taxes filed and do what.
Well, first off, I can go back and make a recommendation here. Do not form an S-Corp.
Yeah.
It's the last thing you need right now.
Okay.
Why aren't you said that you've got some numbers on settlements and you're tracking maintenance for some reason in QuickBooks? Why aren't you just using profit gauges so you have a business report that I could look at for you now and go over all this stuff?
Well, because I called in and told you that I had so much expenses that I wanted to track it separately so that the numbers and profit gauges weren't skewed. So that I actually knew what.
I remember that call. I remember that call. I would still get it all into profit gauges because you're just all over the place, and there's a lot of this that is
20,000.
What's that?
I mean, I'm on right side up now, Kevin. So I'm out of debt. I got completely out of debt the first of the year, and I've got $20,000 in the bank right now.
How? See, something's wrong, Brian. You said you started with a little bit of money in savings. You didn't give me a number, but you said you had no savings. Then you said you had some, but you had $60,000 worth of repairs. You had zero income and you only had a little bit of savings. So how did you pay off a bunch of debt and put $20,000 in the bank? Something's not making sense. I can't deal with numbers that don't make sense, and these aren't making sense to me.
Okay.
That money had to come from somewhere. If it came from your trucking operation, it's profit. But you're telling me you had no profit.
Oh, well, here, let me see. Now I understand. Now I know where I've got you messed up. Actually, a friend of mine gave me $20,000. That's part of the $60,000 that were the expenses to cover that. So I actually did make 60, and 40 of it was actually my money that I earned.
Earned where? Where did you earn this money?
Working for this lease to this company. I bring home like $12,000 a month.
No, you don't. If you do, you lied to me about a dozen times. If you bring home $12,000 a month, you have $144,000 in profit, and you keep telling me you have zero profit.
No, I'm not lying to you. I've only been an owner-operator since August 1st of 2022. I'm just talking about 2022. I made almost 100,000, grossed almost 100,000 just for 2022.
Gross.
60,000 of
But
that was.
wait a minute, Brian. You told me you grossed 100,000 in 6 months, but now you're telling me you net 12,000 a month. I'm not understanding.
I don't know.
You are
I'm
somehow
not
telling me your net is higher than your gross, but you spent $60,000. Nothing about any of those statements makes any sense. I don't know what I'm missing.
Okay. I don't know either. It's all tracked in profit gauges, and every one of the settlements matches exactly. In fact, the P&L report from profit gauges matched my 1099 to the cent.
Then Brian, if all of those things are true, then you are very confused about the terms. Maybe I'm not sure. You keep saying I take home $12,000 a month. Take home means there are no expenses left to pay for the business. None. That $12,000 is your money to do whatever you want with it. You're telling me you do that every month. Then that's your profit.
Yeah, except I was. Right.
But you keep telling me you don't have any profit.
I'm just saying that I use I would run up the credit card like almost to $18,000.
This is the first I've heard about a credit card. Hold on. This is the first I've heard about a credit card. Now I'm going to go back to two things you've told me. You had to borrow $20,000 from a friend and you're running your business on credit cards. You wouldn't be doing that if you truly had $12,000 a month in profit.
Well, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm totally paid off everything, and I have $20,000 in the bank right now. And so I was trying to figure out if I should.
Which tells me, Brian, last year you did not break even. You did not lose money and end up where you are today. Do you see why I'm confused?
Okay. Yeah.
In one story, you make zero profit and you have all these expenses and you're borrowing $20,000 from a friend and you're running your business on credit cards. That's one story. In another story, you're netting $12,000 a month and you've got money in the bank. Those two don't add up.
Well, that's how I started and that's where I am today.
Well, there's a big piece missing in here. It's just math, Brian. It's just math, and the math isn't adding up. You can't lose money then somehow pay off debt and save cash at the same time.
Okay, well, let's just move on to this, right?
Okay.
If I'm going to be making that kind of money, if I'm going to be bringing home
Brian, stop. This is why I don't want to move on. You are now making an assumption that we can't prove yet. You keep acting on what I think are just assumptions. I can't figure out, and I'm going to go back to this. I know you want to move past it, but I can't. If you're going to ask me advice about money in your business, I have to know the real numbers, and I don't feel like I do.
Okay, well, can you pull up my profit gauges? You can look at them.
Let's
it's right there.
Let's do this, Brian. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put you back on hold. I want more time because maybe I can figure this out from your numbers. You're also going to have to get me that QuickBooks data that you talked about because you moved some of this into QuickBooks. So I have to have it all. I put you back on hold. I put you back in the queue. I'm going to have Morgan pick up. Morgan, try to schedule Brian for a call on Thursday, and I will go through everything he can send to me. Get the Profit Gauges account so I can go through that, get his QuickBooks data, figure out how we can get that. I'll go through it all, and maybe on Thursday we'll be able to straighten this out. I am so confused about these numbers. I don't want to make any recommendations right now, and we'll move along. We'll go to Wisconsin. Tim, welcome to the program. Tim, are you with me?
Yeah, Kevin there. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I was out of the truck there for a minute. Sorry about that.
That's right.
Hey, listen, in regards to vegans, this is unique. Could be a one and only. I have a niece who's a vegan that is also a licensed dietitian. So, it's an interesting story.
Hey, Tim, let me interrupt Let me interrupt 1 second because there's a lot of nutritional designations. You said a licensed dietitian. I'm not sure what that is. Is she a registered dietitian, an RD?
Correct.
Okay. They would absolutely buy into the whole vegan thing based on their training. Their training is all low fat,
Right.
calories in, calories out, healthy whole grains, lots of fruits and vegetables. I mean, that's
Right.
their training. So I could certainly see a registered dietitian leaning towards veganism easily. Yeah.
The interesting thing about vegans, though, is that they don't just become vegans. They actually get recruited. And kind of interesting how that process goes. And the only thing I can tell you is more of a cult than anything, because it's not just about diet. It's about a list of about 10 things. It's not just about eating the way you're supposed to eat or what they think is the way they're supposed to eat. It comes in, religion's a part of it, treatment of animals is a part of it, and not only the treatment of animals, it's the, putting animals on the same playing field as humans. And that is a recruitment process that they usually go after young girls in college. That's how she got recruited. And so it's an interesting thing. And it doesn't surprise me that when you try to have a conversation with the vegan, you can't, because, again, that is a cult. There's no room for, competitive ideas or any room for conversation.
Hey,
They're dealing it from a cult.
I agree. I do. And you do see it with all these other issues that seem to be tied up with it. Even like the vax and the masking. Weird how, you can see, I'm going to generalize somewhat, but there's very, very clear correlation here. All of the vegans that have come in contact with or fought with or been attacked by or whatever all seem to be very, very pro-vaccine and pro-mask and also pro-Ukraine. I don't know what that's all about, but I see the issues I see with them: pro-mask, pro-vaccine, pro-Ukraine, pro-rainbow flag, pro-trans. So you're right. We're not just fighting about what we're supposed to be eating. It's like we get all this ideology wrapped up with food. But I'm feeling kind of ornery today, and I was pretty hard on the last caller. Just the mood I'm in today. I could almost say all the same things about us. Don't we recruit? Don't we kind of sound like a cult? Don't we get wrapped up with animal rights and the best use of land? And
But the only thing that is different with us is results, right?
yes, I will agree with that 100%. Yep, I will agree with that 100%. But I'm not sure that our tactics are all that different.
Well, we don't get competitive. We don't, at least I don't. At least I don't anymore. I could tell you story after story after story. I let people ask and tell them what I do, and people just pretty much don't care. Although I do have a friend now that I'm kind of helping that is kind of buying into the program. And here's what I always tell people, Kevin, is I'll tell people, here's what I do. And I read constantly like yourself. And I'll just say this, I don't blame you for not believing in what I'm saying. I'll just say, go find a functional medicine doctor. Go see them.
No.
Word MD or doctor.
Yeah, one of the big differences I see, many, did I say many enough times? Carnivores and ketovores and people on keto or paleo, many of them have tried vegan and vegetarian. It's a very, very common story, myself included. I've talked about it many times. Almost every practitioner we work with at one point in their life tried veganism or vegetarian because they were interested in their health. And we thought maybe that was a healthier way to live. We all found out it wasn't. In fact, I can say I have yet to find a single vegan who has ever lived a carnivore lifestyle, so they have a comparison.
Right. The funny thing is, more vegans convert back to eating meat than the other way around. And, it's you do is results driven, and you can't argue with results. As you say, any test, any science, you can generate any info you want. So you could say, well, here, scientifically, this says this. But, veganism, for the most part, is what do they call it? It's a new world experiment, basically in the last generation or so. And the practices that you preach, have millions of years, right? So, and again, it's just results driven. And I'm going to tell you, I read that woman's book, that Primal Fat Burner,
Yeah.
And probably one of for someone that wants to read a book that doesn't want to get really engrossed in terminology, or it's a very, very good book, gives you a general understanding on why things are the way they are. And actually in that book, it explains veganism. And as you said, most people that write these books that live a primal lifestyle now were vegans. And, and again, it's taking not just your diet into consideration, it takes in basically the whole planet, because you are right. The way we treat animals on these big farms is not good for them. It's not good for us. It's not good for the planet. So that part of it is correct. But we know through guys like Joe Salatin, we know the direction that we need to go.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree. I'm not sure where we're going with all this stuff. Like you said, it used to be just about the food. Now it's got wrapped up in our ideology, and we're just so divided in this country about so many things. And this is just one more thing. And the sad part about this, here's the sad part. Once you start wrapping up all these other ideologies, you can't eat meat because you support the vaccine or whatever you might be thinking. You can't agree with somebody on what we eat because you can't agree with them politically. The sad part is people are going to be unhealthy now because of their ideology.
Well, yeah, but, part of that has been going on. It's not just a new thing. That's been going on forever. And it's, to me, it's more of a lack of education, or it's the lack of people's willingness to take control over their own bodies and their own lives. That's the amazing thing to me. Being told what to think, what to do, how to do it, why to do it, therein lies the problem. There was a time in my life that, I believed in a lot of these things, and it's only been through, results that have proven to me, what the actual truth is.
Yeah, I agree. All right, calls are starting to pile up on me. I'm going to move along. They all jumped in here at once. We're going to go to Ohio. Herschel, what's on your mind?
Howdy. If you can imitate Kamala Hala, I can try Paul.
Yeah, why not?
Man, I was listening to WLW radio this morning, podcast from Bill Cunningham. I know you remember him.
Yeah.
He was interviewing somebody that is 900 feet from the train wreck.
I think I know who they are.
All kinds of health problems, and her baby's eyes are stuck shut, and she's got to use hot water to get them open. She's got all kinds of throat problems and sinuses, all this stuff. Interesting thing that Bill said, city of Cincinnati last Friday turned off the sucking valves for water at the Ohio River because they're afraid maybe there's something there. Of course, they say it's tested and there's nothing there. But
wait a minute.
How do you know?
Wait a minute. You're right. I did read this, and I forgot all about this one. There's so much going on with all this. You're right. Cincinnati can't be any farther away from East Palestine and still be in Ohio than Cincinnati. They're about as far away as you're going to get from them
Not
and still
really.
be in Ohio. 4.5 hours probably drive from there to Cincinnati. And they have turned off. The city of Cincinnati is no longer going to pull water out of the Ohio River for their water supply. They've turned off the valve. Sure, they can say it's precaution, but it tells me they have to believe there's a chance that stuff's coming down the river.
Sure. It's just unbelievable. I seen a thing on a trucking tribe. Somebody had posted a statement about all of this. Of course, I replied, I think the reason Sleepy Joe and the Funky Bunch hasn't went is because their administration is a train wreck and they don't want to see it.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I mean, just...
So
it's bad enough. I've been so frustrated for the last couple of weeks because the federal government is ignoring this, and there's so many implications. The people right there obviously need the help the worst right now, but we also have to be looking at downriver and downwind, and it looks like a really, really big disaster with lots of implications. I'm going to start checking on where any of my food comes from, and I don't want it coming from anywhere near that part of the country or anywhere where that stuff's spreading to.
yeah, I used to gravitate when I would go to Kroger. Of course, in Ohio, they're like the biggest. And if it says I'm local on the
Right.
tag, I would gravitate to it.
Right, me too.
I got to rethink that.
Yeah.
Guess I got to rethink that. So I keep trying to get in on Health Day, and something happens on Wednesday every stinking week, and I never get it done.
You know what that is?
So what's that?
That's called the resistance.
Tamala's got a hold of my phone.
Yeah,
It's got a chrome cap over it
that's right.
from Mike Beckett. So years ago, I had headaches like every day. They would not stop. So I went and seen a doc. He was a DO, and talked to him about it, and he come to the conclusion that what I'm describing is mild migraine. That's what he said it was. He gave me something called nortriptyline. You ever heard of that?
I have not.
Okay, he said that in higher dosage, like 150 plus milligrams a day, it used to be used as an antidepressant, but they have found that in low dose, what he gave me was 10 milligrams, it would stave off mild migraine. So at that time, I didn't know any better, so I took it, and I did that for years. So I decided when I went to my doctor probably 2 months ago, I had this horrible infection. I could tell it was a sinus infection, and she agreed. So I asked her about the nortriptyline, the 10 milligram amount. I said, if I stop that, just cold turkey, will that hurt me, or do I need to titrate down? She said, that little bit, you could just stop cold turkey, and it's not going to do anything to you. Now, I did have these symptoms I'm going to describe prior to stopping nortriptyline, 2 or 3 weeks prior. But oddly, I'm pretty sure I can correlate that the antibiotic she gave me was amoxicillin, 875 milligrams per pill, take 2 a day. I swear it got more intense during the course of that treatment. And by the end of it, I couldn't wait to take the last one, because they always say, take it all. So I did. I swear it got worse when I took that. So now I am still dealing with a headache like I used to years ago, virtually every day. It's a mild headache. You can live with it, but you don't want to. So you had told me about the uneasy feeling when I would read and scroll like a computer screen or something, that was adrenal.
Right.
So I just happened to have a bottle of your ADB5, might not have the letters right.
No, that's correct.
That adrenal supplement. Yep. And so I started it. I just took one in the morning. And that afternoon when I got home, I took the second one, and, around dinner hour. And woo, howdy, that did not like me. I felt really weird. So I said, okay, they say to titrate medication. Why not titrate a supplement?
Right.
So I did one in the morning for about 2 weeks. And then I started adding the second one, and it doesn't make me feel weird now when I add that second one later in the day. But I still have, it's very mild, but it's there. It's nothing I'm going to stumble and fall. But my head feels really strange. And I'm thinking, do I need more for the adrenal? And in fact, I told you about the panic attack that I had.
Right.
And that really freaked me out. So I'm actually got an appointment Friday to see my wife's heart doctor guy just to see, do I have AFib? Is that what this is? I don't know. I'm a little freaked out.
So my advice would be not to visit any traditional cardiologist.
I figured you would say that, but okay.
Well, here's the thing. Are you willing to take their advice? If you do have AFib, they're going to put you on a blood thinner.
True.
I mean,
This is true.
I wouldn't go to these doctors because I'm never going to take their advice. So, guess if they're close and you want to use them for testing, you could do that. But just know that if you show any signs of AFib, they'll put you on a blood thinner. That's what they do. It's all they do. They're going to push you to go on a statin. I mean, all of this crap, I deal with all that. Why not make an appointment with Dr. Wolfson if you're worried about AFib?
Okay.
He'll help you with all of this.
Oh,
Go to your doctor and talk to him about adrenals and watch the way they look at you. They'll look at you like you have 3 heads. You can't talk about weak adrenals with a doctor. They don't know what that is. So first off, if you're worried, I would do this with Dr. Wolfson. I would not go to a traditional cardiologist. Second off, and this isn't a big deal, but doing any of the mushroom adaptogens?
Well, I did buy the coffee and I did buy the hot chocolate. I drank a cup of the coffee and whoo, howdy, did I feel weird after that. So I've been afraid to do it again.
Yes, see, I think that might actually be the sign that we're on the right track. I mean, if I were you, and I admit it, I don't understand the entire adaptogen thing the way Danielle does where she, zeroes right in on exactly which one I need. But here's the thing. There's only one downside to just loading up with these adaptogens. There are no health downsides at all. The only downside is the cost. You're going to spend some money to do it. But if I were you, I would just load up on all of them. I'd focus on the reishi, but I would throw in the lion's mane and the cordyceps now and then. And I would be drinking 2 functional mushroom drinks a day right now and just see what happens.
Now you talk, because all I have is the coffee with the reishi, and I have the hot chocolate packets.
Both are good. I would get the
good.
reishi elixir, and I would get the other cacao we have. We have 2 cacaos. I think the other one is cordyceps instead of reishi. I would get both of those. And then I think we have 4 elixirs. I think we have elixir for all the groups: defend, perform, think, and chill. Those are the 4 groups. I'd be mixing them all up. Be drinking them whenever. I wouldn't worry about any kind of schedule but I'd be drinking 1 or 2 of those every day for right now and just see what happens.
So have you ever put the little hot chocolate packet in the reishi coffee? I wondered about that. Would it be like coffee mocha? Is that any good?
It's darn good. Yeah. Yeah. It's really good.
Should you put a little butter in it, whip it up, kind of like
what
you do your NDK stuff?
Well, why a little butter? Why not 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, a cap full of Light Balance, 5 drops of vitamin D, and a packet of reishi?
If I do that, my innards are going to be in the John driver.
Yeah, well, butter then. Yeah, throw some butter in there.
Okay. All righty, sir. I'll let you be.
All right.
Let you get more.
We'll talk to you soon. Let's go to Ohio this time. Velo, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Good. Are you there in Central Florida?
I am from Central Florida, but I live in Akron, Ohio now.
Oh, you did the opposite I did. I was from Akron, Ohio, and I moved to Central Florida.
I did opposite thing.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Just a couple things on my mind regarding the water situation. There's a big Niagara bottling plant right in Imperial, Pennsylvania, which bottles a bunch of water for Sam's, BJ Club, Coca-Cola, and all kinds of, basically all the big ones.
That's a good point. People need to pay attention. We just assume that bottled water is always clean. And it is somewhat, but a lot of this is coming from municipal water supplies that treat it, that it's clean because it's been filtered and treated, and which is okay, I guess, not a big deal. But we need to start paying attention because a lot of these water supplies may now be tainted.
Exactly, and you never know in the water testing what they're actually testing for. Maybe the chemical, they don't have testing facility for that stuff.
Correct.
You never know. That could be an issue too. And especially from that facility in Imperial, Pennsylvania, I delivered all Northeast Ohio into Niagara Falls, New York, through Pennsylvania, and basically all over the place. That's one of the concerns.
Yeah.
And also, we're talking about sinuses and throat issue. I was just there last Wednesday and Thursday going through that area. I was actually in Imperial, Pennsylvania, driving to Syracuse, New York. And on my way back from Syracuse on Thursday, I noticed my throat was kind of sore. But then on Friday, I noticed that I'm having a runny nose and almost like a coughing. But it's getting better right now. And I'm thinking about it could be the allergies. But also I was in that, in that area over there. So that could be it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now we are in that time where the trees are actually budding right now. So we are starting to see elevated pollen. And even if you're really healthy, your body will still react negatively to pollen. And those are irritants to us. And the fact that you get these kind of allergy symptoms is sometimes just a sign our immune system's nice and strong and it's fighting this stuff off. So even really healthy people will get some of these symptoms right now, but now we've got this whole chemical shitstorm confusing the whole thing.
Yes. One thing that's interesting, I'm not sure how exactly this stuff works, but Clinton, Ohio, that's basically almost like 80 miles west of East Palestine. They sent out the warning letters for the water quality in that area, which, I don't know, seems like it's upstream from the place, but also at the same time, they're sending out the warning letters, the township of Clinton.
It's actually kind of confusing trying to follow the water tables. I mean, we always think of them going south, because most rivers do flow south, but there are several rivers that flow north, even some big ones. I lived on one in Florida. St. John's actually flows north out of the Everglades, and it runs all the way up to Jacksonville and then dumps out into the ocean.
Yeah.
So there could be, most of that water out of Ohio is flowing west and south. But it looks like when I tried to study the rivers and the tributaries, it looks like there are some that could take that water north up into like Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's a big concern. Like a lot of people don't think about it, how big that this spill is. And there's basically hardly any media coverage about it.
When can you
maybe keep it quiet?
When can you ever remember something like this happening? We have this train, it derails. Now we know there's 11 cars laying there with highly volatile toxic chemicals in them. Before we even know that this has happened, there was very, very little news coverage of the train wreck itself. And before most people in the country even know anything was happening, they made the decision to ignite this stuff and burn it? That never happened before. What the hell?
I don't know. I don't understand it. I have different beliefs in all kinds of systems, what's going on in the world right now. But I think somebody is trying to cover up for somebody else in this situation, just to keep it quiet. I don't know. For lately, it's been the Union Pacific, the law, not the lawsuits, but the protest, whatever you call it. I don't know. Maybe the government is trying to cover for the railroad. Never know.
Certainly seems like it because they're just totally ignoring the whole issue, and this isn't the kind of issue a government should ignore.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on these days.
I don't either.
He gets me thinking. Yeah, it makes my mind spin around in a circles, and seems like everything is covered up these days in the news or anything in the world these days.
I agree. And like I said, I got to stop myself sometimes. I've spent so much time trying to research this, trying to figure out what's true and what isn't true. And it's now affecting my health and my sleep. But I just think we have to. I don't think there's any choice. We can't ignore this. Let's go to Texas. Fred, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. I have a little bit of a twist on this. I remember watching an interview, I don't know, it was one of the Tucker Carlson interview about a banker, was an investment banker, and he started a Twitter account about Goldman Sachs, some kind of satire account. But anyway, through that, he had a unique job in the investment banking world where he took the back end deals and matched them with public financing. You know what I mean? And so he kind of got a good overall view of everything. But he mentioned a few things when these financial crises have, how they were so disconnected from the regular people. And I got to thinking about that over the weekend, about that interview. And I remember I had a really good friend who had a catering business on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. So, it was a serious business. He had a couple of floors in a brownstone up on the Upper East Side. And one of his customers was Deutsche Bank. And in the housing collapse, Deutsche Bank used to do either off-site parties or parties up on the Upper East Side at his facility. And so instead of doing that, they did a party out in the Hamptons and called it a picnic. It was actually double the cost, but because it was a picnic, not a venue, it looked a lot cheaper to everybody. So I feel this is an elite problem. They don't care what really happens, and it's gotten worse over the decades because if you go back to when Michigan was they're still fighting the water crisis, Obama went there and drank the local tap water to give a sense of security to the people that they're doing things. And the disconnect now and I think the lack of responsibility and training. I mean, these people, like we said, they fail upwards. There is no more people the skill level is gone. They would be on site. Who burns chemicals that are going to turn into a phosgene gas? I think it's just an inherent failure in the lack of training, the lack of let's pass everybody so our numbers look good. Let's take all the money given to these organizations and feed it upwards to the bureaucracy, and let the teachers starve at $30,000 a year. It's just I just think it's just a whole cultural problem that we have.
There's no doubt that it's so widespread now, and it's just really hard. Human beings, if we don't get information, we start making stuff up. That's just what we do, and that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
We're not getting enough information, so I'll readily admit a lot of what we talk about we're making up. But it seems logical based on the information that we do have.
Right. But what also fuels this is that how they're trying to, you have Buttigieg saying that there's over 1,000 derailments across the country every year. Like they're minimizing this. It's the border. They're minimizing this. It's an immigration thing. It's not a border crisis. Well, they kind of go hand in hand, but they're two different things in the same, they're two different things also. There's a border crisis because the women and children are being raped coming across the border and sex trafficked, all the illegal drugs and everything else that's coming across the border. So that's not an immigration problem. So, very good, the left, not the liberals, the left. There is a distinct difference between both of them. But the left is very good at controlling language and controlling the narrative. And unfortunately, we have people. I mean, look, if you just take a microcosm, look what Don Lemon said about his co-hosts, demonizing Nikki Haley, but his two co-hosts are in that category too. And he's pissed off because he lost his show at night, so he's just lashing out at everybody.
Yeah.
It's such a disconnect. It's such a disconnect in the people that are supposed to, that we put in charge to oversee everybody. There's such a disconnect. that they forgot what they're really there for.
Yeah. No, it seems like in the last couple of election cycles, elections aren't even the answer anymore.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know the answer. The answer is to stay involved. Try to get your local districts the way you want them, and hopefully those people will strive to greater positions and maybe enhance the country as we go along.
We can wish.
I guess. Yeah, we can hope anyway. But I wanted to talk about my numbers because my body battery is still staying in the mid-range, and it was up in the 80s Saturday, and now I'm down in the 40s again. I worked out pretty hard with the stress protocol, and I've been eating fairly clean. I think it may be just time. Any ideas?
What are you doing as far as the physical protocols?
I'm doing 40 minutes in the blanket with the Wim Hof breathing 4 rounds. I'm doing the stress. I'm doing 3 days on the X3. I'm doing a push-pull. I'm not doing the X3 workout. I'm doing shoulders and arms on one day, chest and back on another day, and legs by themselves on the third day.
Okay.
And then I'm doing a cold shower, probably between 3 and 4 minutes, as cold as I can stand it.
Have you seen any increase in your average HRV?
Well, that has been starting to come back. I've been seeing that starting to come back because I got down to that unbalance about a week and a half ago. And then I did drink weekend before last again, and that knocked me back off to unbalance. So today I'm back up to 29 in balance. I feel pretty good. I just noticed that my body battery is not coming back as like I thought it was, like I thought it would.
Right. And when that happens, what I've found is we need to identify the things that are improving your HRV, and we need to try to do more of them. We should see, we should be able to get our HRV. Actually, I'd like to see people push it in the beginning and get it unbalanced on the high side. Have you ever been there yet?
I got you. Not yet. No, I haven't.
Almost like to see you push and you may even see your body battery tank a little bit more often when you do this. But if we can get you beyond that balance, we get you unbalanced to the high side, then we let it drop back and we stay in that high balanced place. And our HRV should get higher every day or every week at least. You know, we'll go back and forth a little bit, but kind of like the stock market, it might go up and down, but we want it to overall be going up. And that's really...
Yeah, I mean, I do see a lot of things happening better. Sleep is starting to improve to some degree. I've been doing a lot of the elixirs. At night, I do greasy coffee with my wife. I put a packet of elixir in my coffee, not in hers. She's getting she likes doing it with me.
Good.
I've been doing the Performance Zinc in my NDK coffee a couple times a week. Maybe I should up that. I don't know if you think.
I just think a good balance of all the adaptogens are probably healthy for us during this time. If we can identify one that actually starts improving our HRV, then I would focus on it. I do have 2 devices, headband kind of things that I have shown that they increase HRV. I'm just, you know what I'm getting ready to do, and you're one of the people I'm probably going to reach out to. I think I might want to do a kind of mini challenge before we finalize all of this stuff and roll it out. I'd like to get maybe 5 to 10 people that are where you are, where you've been playing around with this stuff, and have like all of us kind of go through a mini challenge on our own and see what else we can learn.
Okay. You also have to send me the stuff on that the dental stuff to look at.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think somebody else asked for that online, and I forgot to do that too. I got to go back and look.
Yeah. Also, being a religious cult member here, the reason we don't get too many people is because we don't drink Kool-Aid. We drink kombucha, which is a lot more expensive.
That's probably true. Yeah, all that, all that grass-fed beef and butter and kombucha, we're a pretty exclusive club.
But I think now the whole mindset of when you're a tolerant leftist only if you agree what I agree is the whole mindset around our culture with everything now. If you don't agree with me, we have to make you agree or completely. What is it? What do they do? They target you. What do they call it? Cancel you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's where we're at in a lot of this. And it is more like a religion. And I think because the country's getting more secular, that people are trying to find something that they can believe in, and believe in almost like a religion. So
Yeah, seems like
that
it.
might be some of it too. Just some thoughts today on a open Monday there.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. It's getting a little crazy. Gonna move along. We're gonna head off to Kansas this time. Cody, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. So my question is on MTC oil. I've heard you say in the past that you don't like the powdered stuff because it's just an extra process to it.
Right.
But I moved from regular trucking into being a transporter, transporting my truck. And I stay in a hotel every night, and I fly back to get more trucks. I know of any containers to put the MTC oil in where they don't leak?
That's a tough one. The container has been a big issue. In a case like this, I might use the powdered. If it's just that much more convenient, I may switch to the powder in that case.
Okay. And do you got a brand that you would recommend? I know you really don't recommend brands, but...
Well, I do recommend brands all the time. I
look
mean,
for-
I have no problem recommending a brand. If we like a product, we either recommend it or bring it into our store. In this case, I don't have one just because I haven't tested any.
Okay. So just play around
Well, I
with
can't
them.
say I
You got
didn't
any
test
ideas
any.
on-
Bulletproof,
Oh.
you may want to go check out Bulletproof. I don't know what they have anymore. Bulletproof used to have a product that was basically bulletproof coffee in a packet. So it had the butter and the coconut oil, and I forget what else may have been in there. But the stuff was just awful. I mean, it just did not like the taste of it was my biggest problem with it. I'm looking to see if they still have anything like that or not. Let me look in their MCT oils. I'll see if they have anything like the instant like they used to. They have Brain Octane C8 MCT oil in packets. So they do have
Awesome.
They do have it, just the oil in packets. I'm looking to see. They may have dropped the butter and oil because I don't think it's sold all that well because it didn't taste very good. If you just want the Brain Octane, you can actually get that in packets, or you can get their MCT oil in packets. The difference, Brain Octane is pure C8, or MCT oil is a blend of C8 and C10.
Okay. All right. I'll be on the lookout for it at Sprouts, and I think Sprouts would be the best bet to find it, I think. Or just order on Amazon and it'd come to me.
If I were you, just
Or
order
do
it
y'all carry
directly.
it in your store?
Order it. We don't carry it in our store, no, but you could order it directly from Bulletproof.
Okay. Well, I've never been to their website. I've looked at them on Amazon, but never went to bulletproof.com and looked at them.
You'll find
You got any ideas on?
You'll find a lot more products on their site than you will on Amazon.
Okay, cool. I will go and check them out. Do you got any ideas on butter that would be room temperature stable?
All butter is room temperature stable.
Okay.
I
Okay.
never refrigerate.
So I could just take
no, let me
butter.
let me correct this. We keep a lot of butter in stock, just like we keep everything else in stock. Now I have, fresh butter that I buy, a case at a time. So we probably usually have on hand, we probably have 20 to 30 pounds that stays in the refrigerator.
Uh-oh.
Once I go to use it, it comes out of the refrigerator and stays out of the refrigerator.
Okay, so I wouldn't have a problem keeping it out of a refrigerator in a truck all day or
The
on an
only-
airplane or anything like that.
Won't go bad. Now it could if it's exposed to high temperatures for long periods of time in the truck, and I'm talking over months, weeks at least. It might start to go a little rancid if you've got a lot of hot in the truck, but you would only leave out You know, when I take a pound of butter out of the refrigerator from everything we have stored, that pound of butter probably only lasts us a couple days. I mean, we use 4 tablespoons a day just for coffee. I would have no problem leaving butter out on my counter for weeks. In the truck, one thing you're going to want to make sure is it's in a container that if it melts, it's not going to make a mess. Because butter will start to melt at right around, 75, 80 degrees. It'll start melting. So that's all you really need to worry about.
Is it just melting? But I could just carry it with me from place to place to place.
Yeah, but just put it in some sort of a container where it doesn't matter if it melts.
Okay, good deal. I appreciate it because I miss my bulletproof coffee. I've been doing this since August, and I could go back to 1 meal a day if I had my bulletproof coffee.
There you go. Yep, you can do it. It takes a little bit of prep work. All right, looks like Morgan. Looks like I've got one more call there in the queue. I'll take that, and I'll let everybody know I guess we are about 2 hours into this today. I'm going to grab this last call. If you want to jump in, let me refresh, make sure I still have that call. Yeah, it's in there. We'll grab this last call. If you want to jump in, there's still time. 855-950-3835. What do we got going on this week? I'm not even sure yet. I've got to check. Tomorrow will be the Power Hour. Wednesday, who do I have this Wednesday? I'm not sure. I'll have to check. I know I've got a guest on Wednesday, Destination Health. Thursday, we've got just a free-for-all, I think. Nothing strange or exciting happening on Thursday. I will be doing some recorded shows this week because we're going to be on the road for a couple weeks. I'll make sure we have original content. All right. Calls are starting to come in again, so I guess we'll keep going. Go to Arizona. Gene, welcome to the program.
Hey, good afternoon, Kevin.
What's on your mind
There a
today?
little bit ago, I thought you had said there triggered a thought in my mind where your comment was who would burn a chemical that would release phosgene into the atmosphere. Now with
And you're breaking up really bad. I'm going to put you back in the queue and see if we can save that line. Let's go to South Carolina. Terrence, welcome to the program.
What's up, Kev? Quick thing. I just hope that Brian does call you back and does take it serious, because listening to him, it sounds to me like he's not being honest with himself. I don't want to pick on anybody. I just don't want. I have my own truck. I was leased to somebody when I didn't know a damn thing. I was doing this years ago, and I gave it up. I didn't lose any money on it, but listen to you all this time to hear how easy it is and to do the right thing. It just seems like there's something that he's being honest with himself, or
I don't think
he's just hoping it's a mathematical problem.
I think it is. I think it's a terminology and math problem is what we're dealing with. I think he's using different terms. He's saying things like take home when it's really not. And we shouldn't use take home in a business. That's more of an employee term. It's different. It's taxes taken out. But in a business, terms are specific. Net profit is a very, very specific number. And if you say it and then you take one of those numbers out and it's not in there, like he was separating maintenance, I'm going to be totally confused. And I don't want, one of the problems with doing what I do, giving advice over the radio like this is you never have all of the information. You just can't. I mean, it's not like I can look through his tax return and look through his accounting and, get all the details. So dealing with less than perfect data. But then when I get a call like this, it was so confusing about what numbers we're really talking about that I can't give him any advice until I can understand what we're miscommunicating about.
Absolutely. And you know what I know is, like I said, I guess it's frustrating, and I can imagine how frustrating it is to you. And I'm not picking on anybody today, but just listening, like Kevin, I know I started doing this. I stuck to it, the guidelines you said. and it worked. And when I spray from it, I see it, and I know why my numbers are shitty or
Right.
But I'm listening to some people, and it's like they're not being. I said this before, and again, I'm not picking on anyone, not calling anybody out. Man, if you want help, just be honest, man, because it sounds.
So I
I'm gonna be blunt. Sounds to me like a lot of people are bullshitting you, Kevin. That's
Well,
what it sounds like.
I'm
Sounds
pretty-
like people are bullshitting you.
I'm pretty good at telling the difference. And if somebody's bullshitting me, you'll usually hear me come down on them really hard. And at some point, I'll usually just get rid of them. I didn't do that with him. I came down on him kind of hard, but only so I can get to the right information. I'm positive he's not bullshitting me. I'm positive he's not lying to himself. I believe is that we just have some confusion around the terms and the math. That's all I think is going on here. I don't think he's bullshitting. I don't think he's lying to himself. I think he's trying. I think he's doing a good job. And I think there's real potential here. That's why I want to make sure I get the right information and I give him the best advice.
Right, yeah.
Because I think he is doing a lot of things right.
And the thing too is like, I realize people don't the stuff that you're helping everybody with. If you were to go to an accountant or somebody, even just to talk to them, there's two kind of people. You're going to get the person that's going to help you and do the right thing by you, or you're going to get someone that's going to take you for a ride.
Yeah.
So to get the information that you're giving to people and people, I think like I see people that aren't taking it serious. And be honest with you, I look at it sometimes, I get mad because they're wasting somebody else's time that you could take that's really not doing their business right or health-wise and change their life like you did to me. You know what I mean? And make you aware of things. I mean, sometimes it seems like there's certain, I don't know, I guess I'm getting ornery like you said. I don't know. It's just like I'm listening to this and I'm getting frustrated. I'm like yelling at the radio and I'm like, well, man, I don't know this guy. I don't know. Again, I'm not picking on him, but it just didn't seem right. And I just hope everybody realize when they call in, just, be honest and tell you, if you want help, just be honest. If you screwed up your finances, there's nothing you can do to say that. Only thing you can do is make it better. And you're asking the questions. So there's the start. So try and give the right info to get the help.
I was more, I know it probably doesn't sound this way, but during that call, I was more frustrated with myself than I was with him. I think he's doing the best he can with what he knows at this point. I feel like it's my responsibility to help him figure this out. And I'm frustrated with myself because I wasn't able to.
Right. But again, you don't have the numbers. Like, all right, I'll let you get going. I don't want people to think I'm picking on anybody, or just when you call and you want help, man, you got to have the numbers. Just honest, man, because the only way you're going to get the right answer.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think he was being completely honest. I think there was some confusion, and I wasn't able to help him understand it. I think most people know this is a no snowflake zone. I'm pretty hard on people even when I agree with them and I want to help them, because sometimes you have to be. And sometimes, like I said, it's my challenge that I'm not explaining something correctly or I'm not asking the right questions. I was more frustrated with myself on that call. Let's go to Arizona. Mike, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin. Sounds like you're having a wonderful day today.
Not bad for a Monday.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say about the, you were talking earlier, forget his name, but you were talking about the carnivore diet and the vegetarian diet and how he was making the statement, as you were too, about the carnivores, how we're killing, to be able to survive and eat and all that. Well, they're doing the same thing to plants. You got to, cut down the stalks off them and all that, so they're damaging the plant.
Well, so here's the interesting thing, because I've asked a bunch of vegans about this. First off, they don't believe plants are what they call sentient beings. So they don't feel like plants have feelings or morals or anything like that. So they're okay killing plants. So you can't go down that road with them. They're fine with that. Now, when I took it further and said, well, wait a minute, if the whole thing about this has nothing to do with health or anything else, you're only doing this because you think it's wrong to kill animals, What about all the animals we kill when we harvest plants, when we grow plants? You can't plow up an entire field, thousands of acres to plant kale or spinach or corn or whatever without killing a lot of living things, not plants. We're talking rodents, mammals, bugs. They're okay with that. I've asked them this question, and their answer seems to be, well, we kill less that way. So they are willing. Now, if you try to go down the health road, they'll just argue that carnivore isn't healthy. Well, what am I going to do? I'm never going to convince them. I believe carnivore is healthy. And I'm not going to sacrifice my health to eat a bunch of plants so that we kill fewer. And I don't even know that anybody can prove we kill fewer. They don't seem to have a whole lot of love for insects either. Insects don't seem to be all that important to them, even though those are living things.
Yeah. Well, the other thing you can go with, what about all these solar farms are being put out that kill all the rodents and mammals and
kill the
insects.
The other big one I'm wondering about is many of the, again, here's where we start to confuse ideologies. Why are so many vegans also in favor of green energy and green environment? Why do those two things go together? I'm not sure about that, but they do. And their priorities seem to be really screwed up. There's another green technology right now. I don't know if anybody else is seeing this because, again, I'm not seeing it much on the mainstream media. All along the East Coast, all this winter, whales have just been washing up on the East Coast dead for some reason. And we can't figure out why. The numbers are really, really high, way above the averages. Big whales just washing up on the East Coast beaches dead. They think it might be because of all the windmills we're putting out in the water.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I want to thank you too, Kevin, on the heads up on that summit that Dr. Wilson's doing and all that. I've been listening in and all that, and I've been really, really glad to hear different aspects of things and the way that they're planning stuff and giving a more complete, how would I say it, information to make better decisions.
Yeah, when you get 30 or 40 people all focused on the same topics but coming at them from different angles, you really get a lot of good insight. That's why we like these summits.
Yeah. It was. I mean, I still got today to go through yet, so
excellent.
I've been listening to almost all of them.
Good.
The second day I missed out on a couple and got locked out of them now, so I can't get back into them. So I'm kind of upset about that, but anyway.
All right. Information. Let's roll along. We're going to head to North Dakota. Sarah and Vic, welcome.
Good morning. I just wanted to share with everybody, I posted it in the tribe earlier. If you are bored waiting for your credits to roll on Audible, there is a screen where you can go to your account in the bottom and then click the little gear in the top, and you will be able to find a lot of books that are included in your membership. Like there's hundreds of them. I was scrolling through and probably picked about an additional 50 that I was like, wow, this is included, and added it in. And I've already listened to about 6 of them in the last couple of days. There's a lot of really cool stuff out there that you can fill your head with instead of depressing news. One of them, actually, we should probably share around a lot more. It's called The Great Cholesterol Myth.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that...
They just revised
Bowden?
and expanded it. Yeah, Donnie Bowden and Stephen T. Sinatra. They just revised it and expanded it in 2020. That was a really good one. And a short one that you might not think to listen to, but had some really great stuff in it, is called Aging as a Spiritual Practice. Contemplative Guide to Growing Older and Wiser. And it's never too early to grow old with grace, to start, shifting your mental awareness to getting older and wiser as opposed to grumpier and things are falling apart in the world is awful.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fighting that right now. It's hard to stay positive when you are immersed in all this crappy news all day long.
Yeah. So I decided to grab a bunch of those included in memberships out there and just consuming them. And it's really turned my mind around the last week.
That's a really good idea. You're right. There is a lot of resources when you've got that subscription, and there's a ton of stuff to listen to.
So just wanted to share that with everybody. You guys have a great day.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's head off to Michigan. Brandy, welcome to the program.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Kevin. I was listening to Dave Nemo, and he was talking, or Dan actually was doing his sub-host. They were talking about something that you heard at, I think, the conference you went down with Dr. Wilson in Vegas, that there's people actually being arrested now for these scams where they're deliberately hitting trucks. And he had him on for quite a while. I think his name was Eric. And then we're talking about the whales. Messes with the windmills, messes with their way they signal each other.
That's the speculation, right? Nobody's proven this yet, but it's something we should be talking about and trying to figure out. When giant mammals wash up on the beach dead, something's wrong.
Yeah. And then your guest last Wednesday, I really think she's spot on about what's happening in the world, about everything all chaotic. I really feel that's true. I hear you're stressed and it's causing you to get sick, but if you can accept it, even if it is crazy, but you can come to terms with it and prepare for it, I suppose.
I don't know what else to do. My biggest challenge is trying to just find out what the real information is. I don't even want to go down the road of disinformation, misinformation, all that crap. But it's the biggest challenge is just trying to figure out, why is our government not all over East Palestine? Why isn't the media all over it? Maybe it's not as big of a deal as what we think it is. But how will we ever know? Because they just lie to us and gaslight us constantly.
Yeah. I've mentioned ESGs before. I listened to Glenn, and he's talked about that. He talks about also that there are two factions. One, is what your guest has said, the World Economic Forum. They want a one world government. And then you have China and Russia that wants to maintain what they're doing. So there's like a battle for supremacy. And I think they're trying to do is mess everything up so that we cry uncle and we want the government to fix it, which is what they always do. Break it, then they come along to fix it. That top down, bottom up kind of thing. And I really think your guest said it. He was really right on that. And a lot of that information can be found on Telegram, just like she said. And there was something else, but my brain is not allowing me to have it. So,
got it. All right. We'll go with that because that's plenty. I don't disagree with it. I wish I knew what to do. And I think that's why it's a good thing I've been working on my sleep and stress protocol for the last couple of years because I need it right now. Sleep is shot again. And I will say this time, my sleep is because I'm having a hard time shutting off my brain. That's never, ever been my problem. I'm fairly adept at mindfulness and meditating and turning off my brain and controlling my thoughts. I've been able to do that for years or decades. That's never been an issue for me. And all of a sudden it is. And I'm struggling with it. I sometimes I just want to turn off all the news and say I'm just going to ignore it. I don't think I can. So I have to figure out how to continue to stay on top of this without losing my mind, which is something I'm probably going to go work on right now because I think we're going to wrap this up. We're out of calls. We will see you back here tomorrow for the Power Hour. Let me see if I had. One update here I want to mention. Joel was not with us. Joel Morrow wasn't with us on Friday. He was busy working on his iTorque program with Volvo. He's got a great program going on. We're following him. The easiest way to find it is go to letstruck.com. We put it right up on the top banner. You can click on it and find out what Joel's got going on with that program. Interesting stuff. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always hard work and master the journey.